Welcome to Inside the Soundwave Internet TV show, live from the beaches of Indian, Florida, where all of your local musicians get to tell their music story, from the beginning to the present. And now, here's your host, Mr. Soundwave.
Try to, anyway. Hang out with you.
Hey! Good evening, everybody. Welcome to show number 37 of Inside the Soundwave, an internet TV show right here on the beaches of Indian, Florida at ISW TV Studio and ISW Recording Studio on this beautiful, nice, clearing sky evening after a crap load of rain. I had to say crap load because there was a lot of rain, but we needed it. We're doing a lot better now. Tonight, my special guest is Ed Eliason. Ed Eliason, percussionist. Would you consider yourself, right? Percussionist? Drummer. Drummer.
Drummer, percussionist, music educator, drum circle facilitator.
Right here, Brevard
Marketing expert.
Marketing expert. Gives lessons right here in Brevard. He's up in Canaveral, Cocoa Beach area. I was lucky enough to have him come down and do the show with me tonight. A great asset to the county, a real true musician, and I'm glad he's going to show us a lot of good things tonight, right here on the show. Ed,
yes,
say hi to people.
Hi, folks. How you doing? Friends, family, out of town, out of country.
We say hi. We'll say hi tonight up to Spartansburg, South Carolina, to Todd Taylor.
All right, Spartanburg.
Todd's up there, Mr. Banjo Man.
All
Todd
right,
Taylor.
Been there.
Yep. Jack Starr, and all my cast of many people from Ron Caddy to David Pastorius to Kenny Cohen, right up to tonight with Ed right here. Ed, let's get you started. When did you get started in this music, this nice history of music?
Almost 60 years ago. My dad was a big band era drummer and played the marimba. That instrument is now almost 100 years old, and it's in Atlanta in my son's capable hands. He plays way better than I do. My dad, though, played big band era drums, and by the time he came into my life, he hadn't played in years, but he encouraged me to play. I started taking lessons in school in the 4th grade. In Pennsylvania, we had elementary school concert band, so in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 4 years of college, 12 years of classical. I use that word lightly because it doesn't mean just classical, but they call it in the industry classical training. Reading music, playing marching, symphonic orchestras, bands, wind ensembles, jazz bands, small combos, and I started playing in dance bands professionally when I was in 10th grade, 15. I had the good fortune of having 2 band directors who were jazzers, and they taught us how to go out and make money playing our instruments very early on. We had the same 2 teachers in one combined school, similar to Cocoa Beach Junior Senior High. We had all 6 grades in one building, one band room, so the same 2 guys taught us for 6 years. And out of that jazz band came a quartet called the King's Men. Not the Louie King's Men, that's one word.
Yep.
The King's Men. Well, it was a guitar, a piano, a trumpet, and a drummer. Now, that wasn't exactly a lineup for a rock band.
Right.
But it was early days of rock, you could get away with it. Mm-hmm. And we dabbled in rock and roll, except for one problem: none of us sang. So we rock and roll without the words.
Well, the Ventures did that.
Yeah, we weren't that good. So anyhow, but the trumpet player was all-state band, first chair solo trumpet for 2 years in a row, junior and senior year. Quite an honor. The bass player, the guitar player at the time, was also a trumpet player in the school band. Mm-hmm. And we played together. The piano player just retired a few years back after 30 years as a high school band director. And the guitar bass player, he and I went on to play with various rock bands after high school. He's a successful architect up in Pennsylvania. The trumpet player hadn't picked up his horn in 45 years, and we got together on emails and decided to perform at our 50th high school reunion up in Pennsylvania in October. He went and took lessons. He just retired as a colonel in the Marine Corps Reserves.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I have time on my hands. I'm not doing the reserves anymore. So he went and took trumpet lessons, joined a community band like we have here with our Melbourne Municipal Band. He's playing every week. They flew down to Orlando. We went to our piano player's house in Winter Haven, rehearsed for 2 straight days, played the cocktail hour, 45-minute set of all songs from our senior year. Now, funny thing, over the last 50 years, for our first gig in 50 years, 3 of us now can sing, at least a little bit. And we all picked that up after high school when we were sort of forced into having to sing to stay in the business, stay working. And so I got to sing lead on Twist and Shout, poorly, but I got through it. And we played up in Pennsylvania, drove up in a minivan full of equipment. I took a keyboard, some PA, some lighting, and drum set, and all. We had a good time. But, you know, that was a long, long time ago. But high school for me was all about music and horses. Dad and I raised fox hunting horses. And so I was either riding horses or up in my room banging on the drums whenever I wasn't in school or sleeping.
I mean, this was Pennsylvania, right?
Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia, Westchester, Pennsylvania, 30 miles. That's the home of QVC on the cable.
Right.
So that's where they're headquartered now. They weren't there then, but yeah.
How long did you stay up there?
Well, I moved to Nashville in 1971.
Wow,
I graduated from college in 67, went in the Army for 2 years, came out of the Army in 69, went to work for Aetna, Life and Casualty, in the insurance industry for 2 years, got a job offer with Polaroid Corporation, which at the time was just an incredible company. And consumer product sales. So I was a weekend warrior playing dance gigs on weekends.
They were big.
They were huge, and fortunately we had stock options along with a nice paycheck, company car, and all the bennies. So right away I knew that music was never going to be my full-time living because I just didn't trust it. I didn't feel I was really good enough to make the big time. Luck wasn't on my side either. We had a record in 1965 that got a lot of local airplay in Philadelphia on the top 40 stations. In fact, I run into people around Florida all the time that grew up in that area that remember the Impalas, the Philadelphia Impalas, not the ones that did Sorry, I ran all the way home. That was the New York guys.
Right.
But we were a show and dance band. Rick and Danny, Rick Jeffries and Danny Kane, the founders of the group, have a very successful pro audio business in Orlando. We have remained tight, close friends since 1965.
Wow.
In fact, on the way down to the studio, I called them, told them to watch the show tonight, and said, take a look, and maybe you guys want to come over and we'll do a nostalgia show.
Oh, that'd be great.
With three-fifths of the Impalas.
Tremendous. That would be awesome.
Yeah. We made a lot of friends. And
I can hope for that to happen.
Yeah.
That would be really nice.
Yeah. Well, we can do that. They're all for it. Now, they have both retired from performing entirely. I think they're sissies because I'm 2 years older than them, and I am still doing it, although a lot less than I used to, mostly teaching now, and I love that because when you take a kid and you say, this is how you hold the sticks, and the next thing you know, he's making all-county band. Wow.
That's
it's incredible.
That's the feeling you get from
it. Yeah.
It's a great feeling when you see the. Yesterday here, Ed, we had 3 young 15-year-old ladies here singing called No Drama, and be 15 years old. It was that's it. That's the next group coming in.
Exactly.
Another one, and we're getting to see it.
Well, for example, I worked for a number of years at the Cocoa Village Playhouse in the orchestra, and they have a program called the Rising Stars, or Stars of Tomorrow. And it's just an amazing program that Stacey Hawkins Smith has put together up there, and it feeds the adult productions with young talent when you have kids in roles, teenagers, and then they grow up to be adults, and you see a kid in the lead of a show, like Singing in the Rain, and he's doing the dancing and he's singing, and the kid's an incredible talent. And he started out when he was 5 years old in Stars of Tomorrow at Cocoa Village Playhouse. And he's grown up in that theater. And that's right here in Brevard. And we have the Surfside Players, Melbourne Civic Theater, Titusville Playhouse. I mean, we are rich with that kind of training in this area.
And like you said before, my father-in-law and mother-in-law play in the Melbourne
Municipal band.
Band.
Okay.
And they've been in it for 25 years.
Wow.
Maybe, you know.
Well, then they were there when I was there.
Yeah, Joe Higg didn't.
Oh, well, Joe. Oh, come on now. You didn't tell me that.
That's my, yeah.
Well, Joe and I traded the drum chair for a number of years because
See that?
he was living in South Florida, and he came up and fell in love with Swing Time, the Swing Time 18-piece authentic big band with, by the way, here's what makes Swing Time so great. Not only good musicianship, but the music library is authentic. We had a fellow playing Barry sax one year that was an attorney that traveled a lot on business. He went to Boston and he visited one of the publishing houses that owned the rights to all of the Glenn Miller library, I'm going to say. I could be wrong on this. The details are fuzzy because it was a while ago and I'm getting old. But anyhow, he went into the publishing house and he said, how much would it cost me to get the original arrangements of Glenn Miller's? And he gave him a list of songs. And the guy said, there is not enough money in the world. They're out of print and we will not reprint them ever. Why? Because it's not cost effective is the answer? Are you kidding me? They own the rights to music that still exists and all they have to do is crank up the press and print it.
Right.
But we were very fortunate in having Claire Christie, former 1st Army Band, Washington, D.C., as our conductor for many years. One of the greatest band teachers I've ever had as an adult. And I was in my 40s when I started playing with the Melbourne Municipal Band. And my son played alongside me, did one New Year's Eve with the Orlando Opera Company. My son, then 15 years old in a tuxedo playing for 1,200 people in the Marriott World Center in Orlando. It was the thrill of his life. But Claire Christie taught me, first of all, he never said the drums were too loud, so right away I love the guy, right? Got to love a guy like that. But he taught me how to be a percussionist in a 100-piece wind ensemble, which was an amazing experience in and of itself. But Joe came up, and I had the drum chair pretty much nailed down, but I was doing a lot of commercial gigs, and so if I had a gig, at that time my kids were coming up, I didn't want to play every weekend, I had gotten out of that, I was just playing 3 or 4 gigs a month and spending the rest of the time being soccer dad and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, they got me into all kinds of crazy stuff. So anyhow, but it was all good, and Joe came along and I said, Joe, man, you know, I need a sub. I had a high school kid at Mel High that was good enough to sub for me, and he got to play at Pleasure Island twice when I had paying gigs. So I'd rather make $100 here than drive to Orlando and play for free because it was a volunteer band. We got paid on New Year's Eve, but that's all. A volunteer band, but that Swing Time is still going strong.
He's still playing drums for them.
And Joe is, God bless him, man. I don't know how old he is now. He's a few years older than me. I played at his wedding.
I think he's 81 or 2
Yeah,
now.
see? Amazing. And a great drummer. Has a great feel for the big band stuff. He was a little self-conscious when he first came on because he hadn't played in a while. I said, Joe, you grew up with this music.
Yeah,
I grew up with it through my father, but I didn't get to play in a big band until high school, and then only briefly. And then when I lived in Nashville, believe it or not, in Nashville, Vanderbilt University, Blair School of Music, has a lot of alumni that are doctors and lawyers because of Vanderbilt's medical and legal law school. And so there were 2 big bands in town. One was called the Doctors, one was called the Lawyers. And they were all Vanderbilt alumni who played big band music and just did it for fun. But they didn't need the money, so they'd go out and they'd play these high society soirees and get $1,000 and donate it to. They'd pay the expenses of the gig, roadies and stuff. And they had roadies. I had to schlep my own stuff. But anyhow. So anyhow, it was a volunteer band, and all the money went to scholarship fund at Vanderbilt's Blair Academy of Music.
Wow.
Eventually, some of the lawyers and some of the doctors started losing interest or dying off or leaving town or whatever, and so they merged and became a band called The Establishment. You know, very politically incorrect nowadays, but back then it was very cool.
All right. We got to take a short break. Don't go away. We've got a lot more with Ed here in the history of his music history here in Brevard and what he's doing and what he's got going on. You've got to stay tuned and listen to what's going on and what he's involved with doing here. It's great. You got to hear this, okay? Don't go away. Watch the video of Bob Lambert in Southside Junction coming on right now, and we'll be right back in about 4 or 5 minutes. Don't go.
Do y'all like me? Okay. All right, well, this next one is called The Kind of Person That You Are.
Check.
You tell me yeah. You tell me no. Yeah. You tell me no. First you tell me that you love me, then you say you don't. You tell me that you need me. Now you tell me that you won't. You tell me that you stay here, be by my side, but you disappeared, girl, when I close my eyes. You see, girl, you never change. You wearing me out. These things, they drive me insane. Sometimes you take it too far, but girl, the kind of person that you are, the kind of person that you are, the kind of person that you are, the kind of person that you are. Right when I thought that I could trust you, that I found out I can't. You say that you're a great girl, but a good girl you sure ain't. When I'm in and out the party, places I go, we ask me why we're saying everybody knows. Girl, you never change. You everything that you are. They drive me insane. Sometimes you take it too far, but girl, kind of person that you are, the kind of person that you are, the kind of person that you are, the kind of person that you are. Well, girl, I really hope you're happy for the things that you've done. 'Cause when I'm looking at you, you're really having fun. And I'm thinking of the misery and the pains that you leave. And I think you got it figured out. Girl, it's you I don't need. Good to see you, girl. You never change. You wearing me as you are. These things, they drive me insane. Sometimes you take it too far. Which kind of person that you are? The kind of person that you are. The kind of person that you are. The kind of person that you are. Good to see you, girl. You never change. You wearing me as you are. These things, they drive me insane. But sometimes you take it too far. Which kind of person that you are? The kind of person that you are. The kind of person that you are. The kind of person that you are. All right, another big thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Will Spetafor back here. Yeah, see? I know it. I see, I told you, man, after 15 years, I can get something right. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yes, sir.
Hey, we're back. Thanks. Thanks for sticking around and watching the show. Ed Eliason is with me tonight from Brevard County, telling us all about his history with percussions and drums, and I just found out he's practically family.
Small town.
Small town. I mean, I met Ed tonight, and here we are. We got talking, and wow. He knows my mother and father.
And the old story is,
it's
when
incredible.
you're climbing the ladder of success, be very careful who you step on to get to the top, because you're bound to meet them on the way down again.
Yeah.
And as we all know, in a county of 500,000 people, 33 years I've been here,
Wow.
you run into people you haven't seen in 25 years. And I've never lived in one place this long. I've lived in Brevard County half my life, almost.
Wow.
And it's amazing. And you run into somebody you haven't seen in 20 years. You're not sure you even recognize them, because we all, the last time I said, Kenny Cohen, when did you cut your hair? How long ago did you cut your hair? The last time I saw you, it was down to here. Now, you look a little bit like the rest of us.
Right.
So,
Were you here in the 80s?
I moved here in July of 1980. Yeah.
Okay.
And I came from Nashville, although I wasn't in Nashville for the music business. A funny story. I went to work for Polaroid Corporation, and I was hired up in North Jersey, Paramus, New Jersey, and living outside of Philadelphia. I had a job offer, and the guy said, well, we're expanding our sales force, and we need somebody in Nashville, Tennessee. My wife at the time said, I'll relocate anywhere except the Deep South. Why, I don't know, but that's the way she felt. So I went home, and I said, honey, they made me an offer, and they're going to fly us out to where we're going to be living to look for a house, all expenses paid. We get a weekend in Music City, USA, and she said, where's that? Sheltered life? No. She grew up with rock and roll. What can I say?
Right.
So I said, Nashville, Tennessee, man. We're going to Nashville. She said, is that the Deep South? I said, no. It's just partway. It's just halfway to the Deep South. Now, we're not talking Mississippi or Alabama here. We're talking Nashville, very cosmopolitan. Sure enough, our best friends were from Columbus, Ohio. So, we get down there, we meet very few Tennesseans right at first, we did ultimately. But the funny thing is, here I've got a company car, an expense account, a wife that can stay at home and raise babies, and I'm doing really great with the day job, and I start going out to jam sessions. And the first thing I heard was, y'all aren't from around here, are you? I said, no. And this one guy says, well, I like the way you play. Who are you playing with? I said, my kids. He said, you mean you're not in the band? I said, no, man, I just moved here. I got a really demanding day job. I travel a lot. I really don't have time to be in a band, but I'd like to do a gig or two a month. And he said, well, you want to go on the road? I said, no, I'm on the road already at a lot more money than I think you're going to tell me I can make on the road as a musician. So I started hanging out at jam sessions, and when there were too many drummers wanting to play, I picked up a bass one night. Now, I had fooled around with guitar in high school. Why? Because I got bored at rehearsals. They're figuring out how to play and sing a song, and I already know it. So I pick up a baritone ukulele, top 4 strings of a guitar, and we're working out the chords, and I'm playing along with them on the baritone ukulele. So now I can go to parties and be the star of the party. At the beach, I can take my little ukulele and go. So we're all over that, and I started a notebook of songs and chord changes and all that. I can't sing, couldn't sing then, a little better now, but not much. So anyhow, I'd go into a jam session in Nashville, and I'd say, well, You know, I got this 4-string harmony tenor guitar, like Nick Reynolds of the Kingston Trio used to play. Nashville never heard of the Kingston Trio. Never heard of Nick Reynolds. And even though he had a Martin tenor guitar, they never saw one before.
Wow.
And I walked into a jam session, and the guy's first thing I hear is, "What happened to the other 2 strings?" I said, "I was broke last week. I hocked them." Jokes aside, I was able to keep up with all those 1-4-5 progressions. And I'd say to one of the guys, "What key are we in?" E. Okay, no problem. And I knew where every progression was going because it was just that predictable back then.
Right.
And so one night, I was on drums, and we had a really, really killer guitar player from Virginia sitting in. And he says, "I'm going to do Misty." I said, "Really? You're going to do Misty with this bass player who grew up in Nashville? And all he knows is 1-4-5. And the bass player, "Y'all just play. I'll keep up with you." I said, "Hang on, buddy. Fasten your seatbelt." And we're doing Misty. And, of course, thank God it was a slow song. But he had to slide up and down every string until he found all the notes, because the chord changes come like twice a measure sometimes. Right. And he says, "Oh, my God, where'd that song ever come from?" I said, "It was written by Earl Garner, who, by the way, could not ever read music. But he composed Misty with all those chords and all that beauty. When you hear him playing on the piano, and you just can't imagine being a schooled musician. For me, it was hard to believe that that man wrote such beautiful music and played so beautifully and couldn't read a note of music. It was just blew my mind. But Nashville gave me a respect for the other part of the music industry, which is the not formally trained musicians, the people that play from here. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with bluegrass almost instantly because I considered it the jazz of country music. Yeah. It was just way out over the top musicianship. Banjos, fiddles, mandolins. I'm seeing this stuff really for the first time up close in my life. And I'd already been playing drums probably 20 some years. And I'm digging this stuff. There's no place for drums. They didn't have a cajon back then, or I could have played a cajon. That would have gone great. So I just table drum.
Cajons are cool.
And I'd be sitting at the table going, "Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining." And they said, "Hey, that's kind of cool. Sit on the drums and play with brushes. Can you use brushes?" Yeah, my father was a big band drummer, and he taught me how to drum. Yes, I can play with brushes. Sure. So the big thing was, I can't forget the guy's name, on the staff drummer on the, Harold Weekly was the staff drummer on the Grand Ole Opry. And he created a technique of using a stick and a brush. And he basically played the cross stick rim shot and his right hand with a brush, and he'd go check, 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 check. And the Nashville train beat, which is really just, he'd get that stick and that brush going, and it didn't matter what kind of country band. When I moved to Nashville in 1971, a set of drums was not allowed on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. Can you believe that? And Tom T. Hall is the one that broke that rule. He said, "I've been a member of the Grand Ole Opry for blah, blah, how many years. And when I come on that show, I want my whole band, including my drummer, to play. I will not appear on your Grand Ole Opry anymore until you allow me to bring my drummer." And they changed the rule. They dropped the rule. And from that time on, and then the next thing I know, I go to a taping, because we used to go out to the free tapings all the time. All you had to do was stay till they were done and clap a lot, and you got in free. It was cool. So I got to see all the big Opry stars for free, and at rehearsal, and of course they'd have outtakes and breaks which were funny and cracked up, make mistakes and all like the rest of us do. It's good to see. So here they are up there, and they all of a sudden they bought Harold Weekly this drum set, and he's like, "Okay, so what do I do with all this stuff now?" And he's still playing the brush and the stick, and they've got like power toms, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 2 18s on the floor, whatever, and 24-inch bass drum and a big deep snare and cymbals all over the place. And there's old Harold Weekly. Now, when the different acts would come on, their drummer would get up there and play. That was the house drum kit. Harold Weekly, he'd back up the people that didn't come on with the drummer. And he's up there surrounded by, looked like Lars Ulrich country version, and he'd have a stick and a brush, and he'd go, check it, check it, check it. He would play the bass drum. He did play the bass drum. Boom, check it, boom, check it, boom, check it, boom, check it, boom. Da, 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 da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And there it was, man, all over it. And I saw that technique. Marty Stewart, his drummer recently, was playing standing up with a 20-inch bass drum and a snare on a real tall stand and a splash cymbal. And he was standing up singing harmony on one mic with two other guys in the band, Marty Stewart's band. And he had my old Rogers, he had the blue Onyx Pearl. I had the black Onyx Pearl for 45 years I played them.
Is that your first drum, by the way? What was your
That was my
drum?
first new drum set. No, my first drum was a Slingerland Radio King Gene Krupa model.
There you go.
And we sold it. No! That's why I cry, because it was an ugly green. Yeah, it was an ugly green mother of pearl. I hated it. And I still have the snare drum case that I got for Christmas, 1957. So I could carry that drum to school band. And I was ashamed of it. Because right then it was just a 25 or 30-year-old drum. It wasn't a collector's item. Hello. And the other guys had all these brand new drums,
yeah.
Ludwig, Gretsch, Premier, whatever, you know.
Well, my first set was a Kent.
Kent. I remember Kent. Yeah.
Well,
one of a gazillion Japanese brands that all came out of the same factory. They were all made by the same factory, and the deal was, if you bought enough,
true.
They'd call it a Spadafora drum kit. They'd put your name on the logo. See? You just had to buy enough of them, and they'd call it whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And there, so you had Kent, you had Whitehall, which became Pearl, by the way. Whitehall was a predecessor to Pearl. They broke away. But in Taiwan, they were all made in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And back then, China wasn't making anything, but Japan and Taiwan were making it all in terms of import drums. And their cymbals were garbage.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in those days, if you didn't have a Zildjian, you didn't have a cymbal.
Oh,
and that was before Sabian came along, of course, and UFIP, and, oh gosh, you know, Bosphorus, you name it, Meinl. Meinl makes great stuff.
Sabian is made by Zildjian.
Yeah, well, one of the brothers took off and went to Canada and stole the family recipe, I heard. But anyhow, no, I like any instrument that sounds good. In fact, we have a thing at our house. We do a recycling program that's a little bit, let's say, not mainstream. At our house, nothing goes in the trash until it passes or fails, or I should say nothing goes in the trash until it fails the tap test. And the tap test works like this. Honey, you're not going to throw this away, are you? I haven't played it yet. Yeah, that's a keeper. So that goes into Ed's percussion toy box. If it sounds good, I play it. That includes plastic or metal coffee cans, because when I go into one of the poorest schools in Brevard County, which I want to get to soon,
Yes.
this Title I schools where 60% of the kids are on free lunches and get breakfast at school because that's the only decent meal they're going to get all day, these kids are never going to get music lessons. If they don't learn it at school or at church, it ain't going to happen. And they darn sure aren't going to be able to go out and buy a nice shiny new drum set like my private students do.
No.
Now, if I take a 5-gallon bucket and a number 10 can, I actually go to school cafeterias and tell the cafeteria ladies, when you're cooking those beans today, just wrench out a couple of those number 10 cans and save them for me. I'll be back later to get them. What's that all about? They're drums for poor kids, okay? Well, I did that for years. And I'd put together drum sets with plastic buckets. I'd go to Walmart and buy the ones in all the tropical colors, the yellows, the aqua colors, and all that. In fact, Brevard Cultural Alliance owns 35 5-gallon paint buckets from Walmart in the musical instrument inventory that I am the user of and caretaker of, that have been bought with state grant money on these artist in residence programs over the last 8-9 years. We get typically $400 to $500 every time I get a grant to buy supplies. I'm not a visual artist. We don't use paint and paper. We don't use our supplies. We play our supplies, and then they're good for years. So I've got probably, I don't know, $8,000 to $10,000 worth of instruments that I don't own, that I care for. I maintain them. If a head gets damaged, I replace it at my cost. Why? Because the Cultural Alliance is kind enough to allow me to use them for anything I do in the community. Why? That's why they exist. They don't have room to store them. I do. I rent a warehouse. My wife loves it. We need a warehouse. We used to just need a little small storage unit. Now we need a warehouse. Well, honey, you know, it takes the place out of a big studio like I used to have before the economy tanked.
Hey, are you going to play a little? I'm going to take.
Yeah,
I got to take another break right here.
We'll play out on the break. How about that?
You're going to play? No, we'll come back. When we come back, you're going to go ahead and play a little bit.
Tell you a little bit of what I've got here.
Tell them about
tonight.
what you got. Then we're going to get into what you're doing.
Right.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Because we're going into the last segment.
Good.
So I want that brought out to the people.
Excellent.
What's going on? Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're going to watch another video. Sunnyland Steve is going to do his next video for you. Watch Sunnyland. We love you, Sunnyland, by the way. I'll be talking to Sunnyland soon.
Can I jump on the drum kit and do like a 30-second demonstration on that and then come back here?
Yeah, when we come back from break, don't go away.
Is this going to have to come on?
And I thought the best way to get her to come down would be if I wrote her a really, really special little ballad. And that's how I came to write this song. It's called Meet Me. Living down in the islands, drink rum on the sand all day. Down goes the sun, put my good shirt on. It's down to the club to play. A hedonistic lifestyle, some folks say it's a sin. But I know that I'm right, and I know what I like. This is the greatest place I've ever been. Come to the islands, meet me in the Keys. I heard your name just behind the rain, floating on that Florida breeze. Woke up late this morning again with no particular plan. Walked down to the beach, caught a coconut, fell right into my hand. At sunset I'll be sailing with friends and people I know. As long as the wind is blowing, there's nowhere that we can't go. Come to the islands, meet me in the Keys. I heard your name just behind the rain, floating on that Florida breeze. You're the one I'm waiting for, the one I'm dying to meet. Down from your highlands, down to my islands, make my life complete. Come to the islands, meet me in the Keys. I heard your name just behind the rain, floating on that Florida breeze.
So, for the first 40, maybe 50 years of my drumming career, that's how I made my living, playing drums. Rock and roll, jazz, blues, country, 10 years in Nashville. Top 40, lots of top 40, records on the radio, signing autographs at local sock hops, and I thought that was the be-all and end-all of the music world. I played with symphony orchestras, musical theater, opera companies, you name it. And as I say to my students, I've played behind chicken wire and I've played behind opera singers, and I enjoyed them both very much. Dixon, Tennessee, about 1978, before Animal House, or Blues Brothers, I should say, came out. I walked into a club with a country band in Dixon, Tennessee, and there was chicken wire in front of the stage. And I said to the guys in the band, what in the heck's this all about? And the bar owner heard us, and he said, that's for your protection. You might get wet, but you won't get cut. Oh, it's that kind of place, huh? So along about 2004, I got the great idea that I wanted to retire from my corporate life and do music full time. I had wanted to do that for a lot of years. Honestly, didn't have the nerve because I was raising a family and educating kids, and I just didn't think I could keep enough income coming in every month to depend on music, even teaching and playing. So I went to work every day and worked in corporate America in corporate sales and marketing for some great companies and for some not so great companies. Towards the end, I gradually ramped up my private teaching at night and worked in the day until I could build a program that would give me enough monthly income to stop working day jobs altogether. And that program was called the Drum Club. I became an enrichment sponsor for the School Board of Brevard County and their aftercare program, which involved going to elementary schools where they had daycare, which is most of them, and doing a program for the kids that the parents paid for. And mine was called the Drum Club. I had 2 classes at 5 different schools, so I was working 2 hours a day at one of 5 elementary schools, Monday through Friday. So 10 classes a week. I had a total of about 80 kids enrolled the first year. And I sold a package for each enrollee with a t-shirt, a Drum Club t-shirt, a pair of drumsticks, a practice pad, and a book that I had written called the Drum Club Handbook for K through 6, learning to read music and play percussion. With the older kids, I focused on preparation for middle school bands, snare drum, tom-toms, and bass. We simulated a drum line. I had 3 or 4 snare drums, 1 bass drum, which 2 people played facing one another so that we had a double bass drum effect, and then tri-toms, which were rotor toms, 1 floor tom-tom as a deep tenor, and a pair of crash cymbals. So we did that with the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and they learned how to read music very quickly, and they had some neat little drum line experiences. But that wasn't going to work with the younger kids. You can't take a bunch of kindergartners and turn them loose on snare drums, bass drums, and crash cymbals. So I had to find an alternative that would work. And as it turns out, in the aftercare program, there are more younger kids than older kids, because the younger kids need aftercare. The older kids go home and either stay by themselves or with a neighbor or something until mom and dad get home from work. So I turned to hand percussion. Now this drum here is an Egyptian doumbek. It's a fiberglass shell. This drum is sold by my friends across in West Melbourne at Mid-East Manufacturing. But Remo makes the head. Now, the fiberglass shell gets shipped over from Egypt, and there's a patented secret way that they apply the heads that they will not tell me about. Don't blame them. But it gets an amazingly high pop. This is a drum called a doumbek that's popular all over the Mideast, primarily used for belly dancing, but for all celebrations and in all Middle Eastern music, you'll hear the doumbek. Now the head that's on this drum is made by Remo, and it's made to look like an animal skin. Actually, this is simulated fish skin. Fish skin. They actually use fish skin as drum heads in the Middle East, along with goat skin, which is the most common. Now, a djembe, this is a Remo djembe, which is bolt-tuned, synthetic heads. In Florida, living by the beach, humidity is a constant problem. I love traditional African djembes. I love calfskin congas, but they don't like the humidity. They go soggy. I'm outdoors doing a drum circle or an event, and my drums are sounding like cardboard boxes within an hour. So I use almost exclusively synthetic heads, which brings me to the Remo line of drums and this great Remo head that goes great with this fiberglass conga. I mean, doumbek, very lightweight. The djembe is a 16-inch Remo. This is a Leon Mobley version, and he's become a friend through Facebook, and we chat a lot. He's one of the Remo endorsed drummers, percussionists, and I am soon to become an official Remo endorsed drum circle facilitator through all the training I've gotten from them, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I go in and do my drum club. 2004, I got 80 kids, 2 classes a day after school, and I bring in a truckload of drums, carload of drums on my cart, and we have like 20 kids in a class, and we're whacking on tambourines and small drums and big drums and shakers and rain sticks and all kinds of cool stuff. And we make up songs, or we sing songs that they know. Now, one of the things that's fun with little kids is to take children's songs and rearrange them into a cool, modern beat. For example, there's a little song that your kids probably know called Itsy Bitsy Spider. Now, Itsy Bitsy Spider, all the little kids know that. Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. I told you I couldn't sing, and I don't believe I just did this on internet TV. So anyhow, I do a little different version in which the kids get a kick out of. So we rearranged it into the funky little spider, and we put a funk groove behind it. Funky little spider ran up the water spout. Down came the rain and it washed that sucker out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain, and that funky little spider went up the spout again. Now remember, I'm working with a lot of kids who are very disadvantaged, at risk, sometimes learning disabled, and I'll get to that in a second. I do a lot with disabled kids and adults. Now I've empowered them through a process that Remo trained me in called group empowerment drumming. They've never been able to play an instrument in their life, and suddenly, within 30 seconds, they're playing. They're playing. They're not being entertained. They're not fumbling around with a recorder trying to make it sound like something. They're drumming a beat to a song they already know. Familiarity with the music makes it easy. Now, if I were to go in and say, hey guys, I'm going to teach you an African song. This is an African djembe song. They'd say, well, wow, Mr. E, because that's what they call me. They'd say, wow, Mr. E, you really play that great, but I don't know that song, and I don't know how to play that song. So, you know, I am what they call not ethno-specific in the music I teach. I will teach them traditional Brazilian, Afro-Cuban, Afro and Puerto Rican music, and Dominican Republic, merengue. I'll teach them those forms, but not until I've taken them through the fundamentals of how to drum. The low note is in the middle, and the high note is on the edge. So we call that a bass tone, an open tone, and then there's a third note called a slap. And on this drum, the open tone and the slap sound almost identical. On a goatskin head, they sound different. On a conga, they sound different. So we'll go and we'll do, I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to eat ketchup on my French fries. I like to eat Happy Meals and milkshakes. We'll go to McDonald's for breakfast. What do you like? I like to eat pancakes and sausage. I like to eat orange juice and yogurt. Yay! There's a healthy choice. So we use familiar things. We make up songs. And I'm going to ask McDonald's for some royalties one of these days. I'm going to send that song to them. Maybe we'll send them a copy of the video and we'll do a full length. I should bring in a group of kids. So As a teaching artist with Brevard Cultural Alliance, about 8 years ago, I started participating in a program called the Artist in Residence program. There are only a few musicians that are doing this because you have to write lesson plans, you have to follow the Sunshine State standards for music education, which for me was easy and fun and lucrative because now I've developed a full curriculum of world beat music and rhythm for grades K through 6, and nothing of its kind exists to my knowledge. I've been all over the internet, anywhere in this country. So I've got, don't you steal my idea now. Well, you haven't seen the whole book, so there's not much to steal. I have a marketable product which I'm going to donate to the School Board of Brevard County for use in our elementary schools. To use that as a test market, because I've already worked in dozens of, probably 50 out of the 70 elementary schools, and use this curriculum, and it works. It works. The school teachers love it because it supplements what they already teach. When they can get a kindergarten kid class drumming together with something as simple as 1, 2, cha-cha-cha, 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. Funny thing is, I'll go into Publix. You owe me some money, Publix, for that plug. Okay, I'll go into a grocery store, and some little kid and his family will come up, and the little kid's tugging on my shirt, Mr. E! Mr. E! And I'll grab the nearest thing that I can make a sound with, and I'll say, let's play. And they're singing, and they're clapping, and they're clapping, and they're slapping their knees, and they're stomping their feet, and the parents are saying, who is this crazy old fogey? And what's he doing with my kid? And then the next thing you know, Mom's singing. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. Or I say, been to a wedding recently? I know you know this one. 1 and 2 and conga. 1 and 2 and conga. 1 and 2 and conga. So, vocalization and drumming. It's all rhythm. Babatunde Olatunji is the father of African music in the United States. He came over here in the 60s to go to college to become a diplomat for his country in Africa. He never did that. He graduated from college and became a full-time African drum teacher, the first one of any renown in this country. And he worked with friends of mine such as Arthur Hill, the father of the American Drum Circle movement. And I missed working with him because he died before I got into this. But I would have loved to have met him because I've watched his videos and they are inspiring. Your hands are your instrument. You take care of your instruments. Oh, I forgot my little clippy mic. Does that mean they haven't heard me?
Oh, yeah, they heard you.
They heard me good. All right, so here we go. Baba will say that you play from the heart and not from the head, okay? But the European/American form of teaching music is give the kid a page of notes and rest and say, now we're going to learn this song. 6 months later, the kid still can't play it, and he definitely can't play it without the music. I worked with a keyboard player one time that graduated from the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. And if you're watching, I won't mention your name. I don't want to embarrass you, but we had a gig one night and we had sheet music for every song on our set list. Somebody came up and said, can you play Happy Birthday for my brother? Sure. And Phil says, where's the sheet music? I said, Phil, it's Happy Birthday. You went to the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. You got a degree in composing and arranging. Let me play it. So I jumped off the drums and sat on the keyboard and picked it out one note. Happy birthday. I said, Phil, you can sing. Oops, I said his name. I didn't mean to. He lives out of state now, but you go everywhere. So anyhow, sorry, Phil, I love you. You know that. So anyhow, readers was like my mother. She could read anything. She was a Sunday school piano player. My dad could read because he'd been trained to play drums, but he also could play from the heart. My mother was another one, couldn't play Happy Birthday by ear. I would sit down at the piano, which I refused to take lessons on. Big, dumb mistake. And I would sit down, and a kid in college taught me a triad chord. And I could play C, A minor, F, and G. Now, I do it backwards. I play the chords with my right hand and play the bass note, the tonic, or the, what is it? The tonic? Yeah, with my left hand. And I go, bop, 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 bop. And that will get me through about 8,574 50s oldies slow songs. C, A minor, F, G. Great progression. And then I can also do the 145, I can do Louie Louie, I can do a whole bunch of songs, but don't ask me to read piano music. I learned how to play mallet percussion so that I could teach it. But I'm slower than my students. I get them in the book, I show them the first page, we start working on scales. I said, now go home and practice. I don't get time to practice, so by the second lesson they know more than I do. That's okay. I know when to pass them off to a better mallet teacher if they want to pursue it. But I get them far enough to start them in 7th grade. Now, the main reason I wanted to be on this show tonight was to tell you a little bit about not only what I do with Brevard Cultural Alliance in traditional classrooms, music classrooms around Brevard County, but what I have been blessed to be able to do with the disabled community over the last 6 years. Janice Kershaw is now Executive Director of Brevard Schools Foundation. She is a former chairman of the Brevard County School Board. She became a friend about 5 or 6 years ago when she was Executive Director of VSA Brevard, which is the local chapter of a national and statewide organization, VSA Arts, which stands for Very Special Arts. These are kids from mild learning disabilities up to profound physical and mental disabilities. They are often grouped together. So you have a Down syndrome child, an autistic child, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, dyslexia, something as minor as dyslexia compared to the other kids. But I was a little dyslexic when I was a young child. I learned later because they didn't have a name for it back then, but I would get things backwards sometimes. I could read fine, but I would sometimes get things backwards. But you know what kept me straight? 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. I never got that mixed up. Never, ever, ever. And so my new CD, which will be coming out this summer, will be called 60 Years and Still Counting. Because if you can't count, my friend, you can't play with another musician. It's just that simple. So you're disabled. Now put yourself in the place of a 8-year-old child with Down syndrome. They are the most fun people to work with in the world, children or adults. Janice Kershaw hired me to go in for a 13-week residency at Brevard Achievement Center, which is disabled adults who get vocational and independent living training every day. They learn jobs and they get a paycheck every week. They do things like stuffing envelopes. They do light janitorial work. They work in my wife's building at NASA. They have crews that go out and work at local companies doing menial tasks that they've been trained to do. They do a lot of in-house projects with the ones who are better off staying put right there at the center. They come by public transportation, most of them every day. Many of them live in group homes. They're taught how to balance a checkbook. They're taught how to do a lot of this stuff. Some of them can't even do that. They can't learn. But I worked with one autistic gentleman who was in his mid-50s and had been raised a closet baby at that center. And the most amazing thing happened. He'd been there 20 years and he'd never spoken a word. He's what they call a nonverbal. Many autistics are, many aren't, because there's a wide spectrum of levels of ability in the autism spectrum. This gentleman could not speak. Well, nobody knew if he could or couldn't. We all suspected that he could, just didn't want to, and that's usually the case. So the first 3 or 4 weeks, it was a 13-week program. I had the same 6 classes for an hour once a week. The first 3, he sat there like a statue, legs crossed, hands folded in his lap. He was never disruptive. The loud playing, when it got loud, it bothered him because he was hypersensitive to sounds. So we kept him over to the side where he wouldn't be near the louder drums, and I put quieter drums near him. We arranged the room for his needs. So here's this fella, and I've been given permission to write an article about him, and it's been published by Remo in their website. But I won't use his first name on TV because I don't want to abuse my privilege of using his name in the article. But this gentleman had worked with the same caseworker there for 12 years. Mm-hmm. She had felt that she had made good progress with him, but he was still pretty much antisocial and nonverbal, which are 2 of the main focuses, main disability issues with autistic people that are well into the autism spectrum. Well, we're 6 weeks in, and he touched an instrument for the first time. His aide would sit with him and play an instrument and then try to hand him a stick or a mallet. We gave him a very small Remo sound shape, which is a flat saucer-like instrument, and you play it with a small mallet or stick. The smaller ones are very, very quiet. The bigger ones up to 16 inches sound like a nice little bass drum groove. But we gave him a small one, maybe a 6 or 8 inch, which was quiet, and a little mallet, little foam rubber mallet. And she would play along with us, playing happily along our merry way, singing goofy songs that we make up, or singing real songs that we don't make up, like, "Who let the dogs out? Woof, woof. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it." I said, "Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is." Now, if you're an adult or a teenager, you can get into that, because we go through like half a dozen hip-hop songs. If you're a little older, I do a disco set. We are family, brother and my sister and me. We are family. Ooh, 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 staying alive, and, you know, who can't get into that? So I pick music that's generationally significant to the people, because familiarity breeds success. So here's this gentleman, wouldn't touch an instrument, 6 weeks into a 13-week program. The 7th week, we're doing a relaxation exercise. Now, you got to see this to understand it, but this is an evidence-based protocol from Health Rhythms with Remo that is for stress reduction. Stress reduction involves quiet, ambient percussion. Ambient percussion where there's no rhythm, there's just atmospheric sounds, like the wind. We have an ocean drum that simulates the sound of the surf. We have rain sticks. We have wind chimes. All non-rhythmic percussion instruments, ambient percussion. And we go through a process called guided imagery drumming. And I ask the people to close their eyes, picture themselves at the most beautiful place they've ever seen or can imagine. Maybe it's a beach. Maybe it's a cabin in the mountain. There's a gentle breeze blowing. And then suddenly a few raindrops. And somebody's playing the rain stick. And maybe the ocean drum. And maybe somebody's playing the wind chimes very gently. If it's at the beach, we do the surf like this with the ocean drum. Goes out, comes back in. Tide goes out, comes back in. Just using our fingernails. All of a sudden, right in the middle of this, Bill, I said his name and I didn't want to, spoke up and he says, "Brian, can you play the rain stick a little louder? I can't hear it." Whoa. First words anybody at Brevard Achievement Center had ever heard cross this man's lips. I could not fully appreciate the impact of that because it was my very first assignment working with disabled people. The day I started my program, I asked the question, can you tell me what autism actually is? That's how much experience I had. They gave me a pamphlet from the state of Florida about working with the disabled. It was really all about political correctness. We never used the word retarded. You're not retarded, you're disabled. We never use the word handicapped because you're not handicapped, you simply have different abilities, a different level of abilities. You're disabled, and I don't even like disabled because I have a big sign with the circle and the hash mark through it over the word letters DIS. When I go in to work with a group of kids, I said, what do they call you guys anyhow around here? What do the other students, how do they treat you? What do they call you? And the little kid will say, they call me a retard. I said, that hurts, doesn't it? That's like when people call me fat even though I am and I could lose the weight. You know what I say? Hey, I'm fat and you're ugly. The difference is I can lose weight. What are you going to do? Sucker.
Here you go.
And I get away with it because I'm 6'3", 300 pounds. I get away with it, huh? Okay, so I say, what do the kids call you? Does that hurt? What if I picked a different word to describe you? What would that word be? You tell me what I should call you. And this one little adorable kid, Matt, His parents gave me permission to use his name in all my publicity because I love this kid to death. If he didn't have parents, I'd adopt this kid. He's got cerebral palsy. Can't stand up. He's strapped in a wheelchair, and I have never seen this kid without a grin from ear to ear on his face. And it's a Christian school, and he goes to Calvary Chapel in Melbourne, and he was singing along very loudly to a Christian video one day when I walked in to set up the drums. And I said, Matt, can we drum to that video? That's pretty cool. And we're singing at the top of our lungs, all of us that could. Some of them can't, and some of them can't drum. But I have these little Velcro straps that I made, and if I have to Velcro a maraca to that kid's hand, they're going to play. They're going to play an instrument. We had one little girl over there paralyzed from the neck down. She's in a wheelchair with a tray in front of her. You've seen them. She blows on a little tube, and her hands her arms are in slings, and they're able to move like this so that she can keep the muscles from atrophying. So she does that every couple minutes. She'll blow in the tube. And I walked in, and the staff says, well, she won't be able to participate. She's paralyzed from the neck down. I said, yeah. What's she doing? What are her arms doing? Oh, well, she blows in that tube and her arms do this. I said, yeah, she's got a tray in front of her, right? So I pick up a set of bongos, I lay them down on their side, and as her hands come up, she just makes the slightest little contact with the bongos, enough she could hear it. Whew. Grin goes up from ear to ear. I had never seen her smile before.
Wow.
She is now playing music with her classmates. She is profoundly physical disabled. She ain't getting better. These kids aren't getting better. They may get worse, and they probably will die young.
Yep.
But for the time being, they can make music with their friends.
That's great. That's what it's about.
And that is, for me, what it's become. I have literally, and I'm not blowing smoke because a lot of guys have done what I've done and much more. Yeah, I've done Disney, I've done Epcot, I've done Pleasure Island, I've done the cruise ships and all that kind of stuff. And back in the 60s, I got to play at the Philadelphia Rock Festival in front of 20,000 fans, and we were an opening act for the Young Rascals. Back then, they were the Young Rascals. Then they got older, they dropped the Young. And got to meet Dino Danelli, phenomenal drummer. One of my heroes at the time.
One of my heroes, too, man.
Felix Cavallari on B3. Oh, what a group. And I'm sitting right next to them because we opened, and our drum sets were literally side by side. And the way the opening act went, you segued into one of their songs. So we did our opening set, maybe 20, 30 minutes, and our final show was pre-planned in their key. And it was Young Rascals, come on, was it Beautiful Morning? It's a beautiful morning. Yeah. And I'm thinking, how could this drum groove be any easier? I mean, this guy's a big star, but he's not going to outplay me on this song. Oh, yeah? Watch. I wanted to break my fingers after watching Dino. So I got a lesson that day. And you know what about lessons? I'm 68 years old. In 12 days, I'm going to turn 69 years old. And this is my 60th anniversary playing drums, 60th anniversary year. I don't do as many gigs, per se, traditional gigs I used to, because I love teaching and I love sharing what I know with other people. And I love working with the disabled. Now, Sue Lulai will absolutely hang me if I don't put in a plug for the Space Coast Music Festival, September 28th. I know she'll be here in a couple weeks or so.
With Sheila.
Right. And so last year I was doing a drum circle there at sunset, which is cool because the sunset's over the Banana River. It's over a mile wide. We get that long, lingering sunset over the water, and there's our drum circle. And that was a great highlight for me, but I was also a vendor there, and I met a lot of great people, signed up some new students, sold a few things, and it was a great experience. So this year I volunteered to be on the planning committee. And I said, Sue, there's one thing I want to do. I said, this past school year, I worked in 135 special ed classrooms across Brevard County with 1,300 plus kids that have learning disabilities all the way up to severe, profound physical and mental disabilities in the public schools. Now, among those 135 classrooms, maybe a dozen were private academies, private schools, like No Limits in West Melbourne, like Creative Learning Center in Cocoa, that are privately run and they supplement what the schools do. Sometimes they get the kids that they can't work into a mainstream classroom in a school. So as a result, I personally have worked with 135 plus special ed teachers plus the aides, and some of these classes they have a teacher who's the teacher, but then they have to have an aide for every 2 or 3 kids because the kids need that almost one-on-one attention to get through the day, to learn. They do a lot of arts, and VSA Florida is part of VSA National Organization that brings art to special needs children and adults. It brings visual and performing arts. I think the painters, Gloria Emily does sculpture and painting, some people do mosaics. The children and the adults both get into visual arts, but they love music, they love music. And I'm making competition for myself. I've done this residency twice out of the last 3 years. I said, why are they asking me back so quickly? Because I just did this 2 years ago, and they've got tons of artists that want to do it. She said, because the teachers said they want you back because the kids absolutely love it. And they do. And I can go into a room full of 20 disabled children that run the gamut from as simple as a little reading problem all the way up to autism. And I can say, everybody sing now. I go to Sherwood Elementary School. I go to Sherwood. I go to Dr. W.J. Creel. W.J. Creel. Creel Elementary, Melbourne, Florida. That school has 5 exceptional ed classes. 5. I was there a whole day working with all 5 classes. And we sing the name of the school. Sing your name. My name is Will Spadafora. Good morning, Will Spadafora. So our opening exercise is, I'm Mr. E, kids. We're going to drum. Good morning. My name is Mr. E. Come on and drum with me. Can you do that with me? Can you just do that with me? Will, can you play on the table? Play on the table here. My name is Mr. E. Come on and drum with me. Now you respond back, good morning, Mr. E. Come on and drum with me. Okay, so it's a call and answer, which is a very old musical form, has its roots in every culture in the world. So, my name is Mr. E. Come on and drum with me. And bam, they're drummers. They just became drummers with just that. Now let's sing the name of your school. Oh, we go to Columbia Elementary, Columbia Elementary. And where is it? It's in Palm Bay, Florida. Palm Bay, Florida. So, vocalization and rhythm. As Babatunde Olatunji said, if you can say it, you can play it, Mon. Well, he didn't say Mon because he wasn't from Jamaica. He was from Ghana, I think. But a great man, a quiet spirit, a peaceful man who just
Where can these people, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook at Ed Eliason. I also have a group page, Good to Groove Music. My website is temporarily down for rebuild, but it will be back up. I don't want to necessarily push the retail side, but we do offer incredible student discounts and good pricing and great customer service. I had a big studio a year ago with 5 qualified teachers, 2 of them degreed in music education, and we had to close down because of the layoffs at the Cape. We were on North Merritt Island, right by the Beeline, and had 2,500 square feet. I had a consignment shop in there for people to buy and swap and sell used equipment, which fit right in with the bad economy. You know, pick up something used instead of new, get rid of what you don't need, and that part of the business did okay. The student enrollment, the whole year we were there, just gradually tumbled down with the layoffs at the Cape.
Right.
I talked to Louts and other people up there that do music lessons. Everybody in that area, including Melbourne people, were suffering steady losses in private students. Private lessons have become out of the budget for too many families, people that are downsized. And so we do classes now. Pete Martin, who was in the other day, does a great job. We're getting ready to start classes in Cocoa Beach at the rec center. I'll do a hand drumming camp for kids.
When's this? You know when?
July. It'll be every Wednesday in July.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday in July, and you can contact me or the rec center, Cocoa Beach Rec Department. Laird McLean is the rec director, and they'll give you information on signing your kids up. It's very reasonable, extremely inexpensive because it's family friendly. Everything I do has got to be family friendly.
Remember now, that's Good to Groove Music.
Find us on Facebook.
Facebook. It's easy to find on Facebook. And, of course, you even have your own page, too.
My own page, Ed Eliason. I welcome people to friend request me on my personal page or the business page.
You can get information, I'm sure, there, too.
I regularly post all our activities. Not only that, I almost forgot. A couple months ago, Anthony Darmana is a moving and shaking force. You should have him on a show. He and his girlfriend Lisa are just opening a shop called the Love Hut in North Melbourne. And he and I have done a lot of drum circle type work together. Oh. We set up a band page on Space Coast Live.
Okay.
And it's called Space Coast Drum Circles. So if you go to Space Coast Drum Circles, you will see a listing of every public community drum circle in the Brevard County area. They only let you cover Brevard County.
Right.
That are held on a regular monthly basis. Third Saturday, Pelican Park, drum circle on the beach.
No kidding.
Bonfires when it's not turtle season. Now it is. So
right.
Wintertime we have bonfires on the beach by city permit.
Wow.
Satellite Beach. We're going to be starting that in Cocoa Beach very shortly because the rec department is hot about it. And I'm in now with my classes, so I'll be doing them up there. Second Friday at Friday Fest in Melbourne, the Melbourne Drum Tribe has been doing a community drum circle for years.
Yeah, yes.
8-10 years.
Friday.
Second Friday,
Downtown,
Friday Fest.
downtown.
Anthony Darmana has his own drum circle at a club over in downtown Melbourne every Thursday night. So Space Coast Drum Circles is the generic gathering place for information on anybody that lets me know what they're doing. I'll post it on there. So you can always find a community drum circle.
Check it out.
Typically with loaner drums available. You do not need to own a drum. When I do a drum circle, my trailer is in the parking lot with Good to Groove music all over it. You can't miss it. And it's full of drums. Now, I used to schlep them all down on the beach by myself. I learned very quickly to just take my drum down on the beach. Maybe one extra, and my chair, and my water. And when you show up, we'll walk up and we'll grab a couple drums for you and your friends,
right.
and you can bring a couple extra down.
Yeah.
And they all get down to the beach, and before you leave, you take them back. So it works. It's community. It's about building community.
Got to check it out now. Look it, you have to check it out. It's really, really simple. Good to Groove Music. Ed Eliason, right here on Facebook. You can see him on Facebook. Space Coast
Drum Circles.
Drum Circles, and you can catch that on Space Coast
Live. Music calendar.
Music calendar.
www.spacecoastlive.com.
He's got a lot more to tell us. I'll have that on again down the road very shortly.
With a group, maybe. We're
going to do something. We'll have him on. Maybe we'll put you on the soundstage. That'd be kind of nice.
We could do that. We could bring some kids in and do a drum circle.
A
little mini one.
We could do something different.
Yeah.
We can do that way. We can do an hour drum circle.
There you go.
And put it right on.
The ISW drum circle.
We'll do that.
Sounds great.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Will. Thank you very much.
It was an honor to have you here, man. It's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Watch the show. It'll be up and running probably by 10 o'clock p.m. all the time. You can watch it anytime, 24/7, iswtvstudio.com or iswmusicstore.com, inside the Soundwave. And there's all kinds of special shows on there you can see. Now, Ed will have his own guest name on there as a guest on the show, and you'll just click on his name, and you'll be able to watch the show anytime you want. Thank you. God bless you all. We'll be back next week.
God bless, folks. Thank you.
Be safe. Enjoy the beautiful weather that's coming our way now. God bless you. Take care.